What happens when a farmer lands his crop duster to help a woman stranded in a storm? The next morning, the quiet farm town is rocked when an F-16 fighter jet intercepts his plane. Tom Hargrove, a seasoned farmer and crop duster, had seen his fair share of storms, but when the weather turned violent one evening, he never expected it would lead him into an encounter that would change his life forever. It started like any other evening. Tom had finished his work for the day, having sprayed the last of the fields for the evening, and was heading back to the barn. But the sky had darkened unexpectedly, and a fierce storm was quickly rolling in from the west. The wind howled through the trees, and the first flashes of lightning lit up the sky. As he flew across the open land, the storm grew more intense. He knew he had to land his crop duster quickly before the weather made it impossible to control the aircraft. But as he was about to circle back to the barn, something unusual caught his eye. Down below, on the dirt road that led to his farm, he saw a small car pulled off to the side. Its hazard lights blinked in the rain, but there was no sign of the driver. It wasn't uncommon for travelers to get caught in storms, and with the nearest town miles away, Tom knew he couldn't ignore this. He radioed the airfield to let them know of his situation and turned the plane toward the road. His heart raced as he thought about the woman who might be stranded there. As the plane descended into the thick fog, the visibility dropped dramatically. He pushed the throttle forward, his hands steady on the controls, and managed to bring the crop duster to a smooth landing in the field next to the road. Once on the ground, he quickly shut off the engine and ran toward the car, not sure what to expect. The wind was howling, the rain beating down relentlessly, but there, standing beside the car, was a woman. She was drenched, her face streaked with tears, and she looked at him in disbelief. "Thank God," she said, her voice shaky from the cold. "I didn't think anyone would stop." Tom, still processing the situation, nodded. "You're lucky I saw you. What happened?" "My car broke down and I couldn't get it started," she explained, her hands trembling as she spoke. "I've been waiting for help, but with the storm, I didn't know how long I'd have to wait." Tom didn't hesitate. "Get in. I'll get you to safety." As the two of them climbed into the crop duster, Tom started the engine and took off into the storm once more. The small aircraft soared through the air, but the rain was relentless. He knew the storm was dangerous, and his priority was getting this woman to safety. In the cockpit, he glanced over at her. She was clutching the armrests, her eyes wide in fear as the storm raged around them. But despite the danger, there was something about her calmness that put Tom at ease. They flew for what felt like hours, though in reality it was just under 30 minutes. The storm was finally starting to break, and as they approached the outskirts of Tom's farm, he started his descent, preparing to land once again. But as he did, a bright light illuminated the cockpit, blinding him for a split second. He squinted, trying to adjust to the sudden glare. Just as he was about to react, a loud thud echoed through the air, followed by a sharp whistle of wind. Before he could make sense of what was happening, an F-16 fighter jet zoomed past them, its wings nearly grazing the crop duster. The sound of the jet's engine thundered in Tom's ears, and he could feel his heart race as the plane veered off course. He quickly regained control, but the fighter jet was still in close proximity, flying alongside the crop duster. He glanced at the woman in the passenger seat, her face pale with shock. "What in the world?" she gasped, unable to speak further. Tom didn't have an answer. All he knew was that something had gone terribly wrong. The F-16 wasn't just passing by, it was on a mission, and it seemed that Tom and the woman had become part of it. The once quiet airfield and farmlands were now involved in something far beyond Tom's understanding. He had no idea why a fighter jet would be intercepting a crop duster in the middle of a storm. But one thing was clear. This was no ordinary night. And the next morning, Tom would be faced with a reality he never saw coming. The roar of the F-16 fighter jet was deafening, its powerful engine shaking the air around them as it flew dangerously close to Tom's crop duster. His heart raced, and for a moment he couldn't understand why such a powerful military aircraft was tailing his small civilian plane. "Stay calm," Tom shouted to the woman beside him, trying to steady the plane in the midst of the storm's gusting winds and the jet's intimidating presence. He couldn't afford to panic. As a crop duster, he had experienced a lot of challenges, but this was something entirely new. The fighter jet remained right by his side, flying in perfect formation with the crop duster. Tom's mind raced, searching for an explanation. Was this some kind of military exercise? But it didn't make sense. There were no military bases nearby, and why would a fighter jet be sent to intercept a crop duster in a storm? His hands gripped the controls tighter, and he turned the plane sharply to the right, hoping to shake the jet off. But the F-16 mirrored his every move, staying right alongside him. The woman in the passenger seat was now clutching the seatbelt with white knuckles, her face pale from fear. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words got caught in her throat. She looked at Tom, her eyes wide with confusion and terror. Tom didn't have time to reassure her. He focused on flying the plane as steadily as possible, but it was becoming increasingly difficult with the jet still so close. His heart pounded in his chest, and his mind kept flashing back to the moment he had helped her land safely, thinking this was just another stormy evening. Suddenly, the fighter jet broke away, pulling ahead and flying a little higher. For a brief moment, Tom thought they might have been cleared, but just as he began to exhale a sigh of relief, the jet pulled into position once more, this time hovering directly in front of him, blocking his path. Tom's grip tightened on the throttle. Was it warning him? Was there an emergency? Why was the military involved in all of this? Without warning, a loud beep came through his radio, startling both him and the woman beside him. Tom quickly adjusted the radio settings, trying to understand what was being said. "This is Captain Andrews of the 177th Fighter Squadron. You are flying in restricted airspace. Land immediately. Do you copy?" The voice was commanding, but not without a sense of urgency. Tom's eyes widened. Restricted airspace? This is just a crop duster. What in the world is going on? He muttered under his breath. He had never heard anything like this before. Restricted airspace? For what purpose? "Captain, I have a civilian aircraft on the line. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm just trying to help this woman." "What's the situation?" Tom responded, his voice shaky but firm. There was a brief silence before Captain Andrews responded, this time with more urgency. "You're not just helping anyone. You've intercepted a situation that's far more complicated than you realize. We need you to land your aircraft immediately for further instructions. This is not a drill." Tom's mind was reeling. What did he mean by far more complicated? His instincts told him that this was no ordinary storm. He looked over at the woman, who now appeared more confused than ever. She had no answers, no explanations, just fear. Tom had to make a decision quickly. The fighter jet was blocking his every move, and the storm still raged outside, making any evasive maneuvering dangerous. All right, I'm landing. Just don't shoot me down, okay?" Tom said, the sarcasm in his voice masking his growing panic. With the jet still hovering in front of him, Tom slowly adjusted the plane's descent, steering it towards an open field near a small runway. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but he had no choice. Now. As the crop duster touched down, the F-16 remained above him, watching like a hawk, ensuring he landed safely. The moment his wheels hit the ground, a convoy of military vehicles appeared on the side of the airfield, racing toward him. The jet flew off into the distance, leaving Tom and the woman in eerie silence. Within moments, military personnel surrounded the plane, their vehicles kicking up dust as they skidded to a halt. A man in a military uniform stepped forward. "Sir, please remain inside the aircraft." Tom's mind raced. What the hell is going on? I'm just a farmer trying to help someone in a storm. What do you want from me? The soldier's face remained unreadable. You'll be briefed shortly. Please step out of the plane. With no other choice, Tom opened the plane's door and stepped out, the woman following him. As the two stood in the open field, a sense of dread hung heavy in the air. What was going on? Why was the military involved? The soldier motioned for them to follow, and as they walked toward the military vehicles, Tom felt like he was stepping into a world he had never imagined, one that